Hey guys, Sandro here from Carcraft Auto Detailing in Melbourne. Unlike a lot of the more recent videos I've been doing, today's not so much a start to finish high-end detail, but rather taking you through some options to consider with detailing methods, products and techniques, where I'll be partially showing you the decontaminating, correcting and protecting of the paint on this Mitsubishi Lancer. There'll also be some further testing with some familiar products for those of you that have been following these videos, and also some new polishes, compounds, sealants and detail sprays mixed in, one being a new prototype product that you'll see towards the end of the video that I'm really excited about and may actually be out soon and available. I'll also let you know that the owner of this car has just purchased a new car, and this Lancer was really in for a quick pre-sale detail, but I decided to go a little further and use the opportunity to yet again gather and share some information on this paint type and test an array of detailing products and techniques for my own research and reference. So catching up to the footage, the wheels were actually previously cleaned and coated about 2 months ago by the owner who used CONCOURS PURGE wheel cleaner and coated them with pyro wheel coating. As you would have seen, they're exceptionally clean and really don't need any further attention besides a quick application of the Purge wheel cleaner. The Lancer was then given a snow foam pre-soak with Snow Plus, left to dwell a few minutes and pressure rinse down. That was followed by a hand wash using Snow Plus in a spray bottle at a 1 to 10 dilution with a single bucket method that I have covered in a previous video, followed by another pressure rinse down and a pat down dry using the TEMPEST drying towel before pulling the car inside and using compressed air to blow out the remaining water. If you want to see this whole process in a more step-by-step video, I've done plenty of videos covering it, so please check them out if you do want more info on the wash stage. Now you may have noticed that I didn't use any iron or tar removal chemicals, nor did I clay the paint after the wash stage. This was mainly due to the testing I'm going to be doing with a couple of products, and also to try and explain the differences in high-end paint correction work that I've been mostly covering in my videos, compared to more basic detailing such as a pre-sale detail that this car was really meant to have. There's really no rules as to what a pre-sale detail should be, but rather an expectation that is largely based on time and money. So in most cases, you'll find the car owners don't really want to spend much money on this type of detail, which I'll flat out say that in my opinion is in most cases a bad decision. I've owned a few cars in the past, and each and every car I've sold, I've always priced it above market value, and they've all sold quickly at their asking price. If someone's searching for a second-hand car, they've seen a few in average condition, and then they come across yours which stands out and looks absolutely fantastic. I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10 they are willing to spend more on a major long-term purchase such as a car. And the money that goes into a quality pre-sale detail should more than pay for itself with a healthy return. But with that aside, I wanted to start by showing you how I'd personally proceed if time and money was limited. So for example, I've been testing Auto Finesse Finale Quick Detailer lately, and as a one-step clay and seal procedure, this is a truly fantastic product that's actually impressed me more than I anticipated. Now Auto Finesse do have a specific clay lubricant called Glide, which if I was claying and then polishing and protecting as separate stages, it would be a better option. But as a quick clay, protect and finish single step, Finale has proven to be really impressive. It not only provides great lubrication for claying, but also goes a long way in filling the paint's imperfections and laying down some surprisingly durable protection, with such a smooth glossy finish that's actually way beyond what I'd expect from a quick detailer. Now what mostly surprised me about Finale is how durable and chemical resistant it is. As for the most part, quick detailers tend to fade and diminish quite quickly, whereas this product just seems to outlast your typical quick detailer. As you can hopefully see, it doesn't simply come off after an alcohol wipe down, and it actually needs a more aggressive wax and grease remover to break it down and remove it. So for a quick decontamination and protection stage where time and money is at a minimum, this type of method and products can be a great option. Another option, if time and money allows, could be this one. Some of you may have seen this prototype coating wash product in a previous video that I did, that I've been testing further and I'm actually using here as a clay lubricant. The thing that's really impressed me about this product is its great lubrication, yet it seems to leave next to no residue behind. And as I also discussed previously, it's a product that doesn't seem to mask or affect the paint surface, but rather works with the existing paint or protection to simply improve or revive it to its original condition. So in this case, unlike Auto Finesse Finale, which is a great clay and seal option, this clay lubricant is not going to leave any wax, polymers or residue behind, and a quick IPA wipe down will easily prepare the paint for your next step. So if I did want to go a little further with this pre-sale detail, and give the paint a quick polish and protection using an all-in-one polish, such as CARPRO Essence, HD Speed or Shell Concepts A15, this would be a better option for the claying stage, as using a quick detailer or waterless wash type product as a clay lubricant will most likely cause bonding issues with the all-in-one polish, as well as unwanted residue issues when unpolishing. Using this style of clay lubricant also gives you the option to apply a separate, more durable wax or sealant that, once again, using a wax or polymer based clay lubricant may cause bonding issues with your paint protection product. So all I'm trying to show and test here is that there are plenty of options available, and the best methods or products are entirely subjective to your particular needs and circumstances. Now, as I discussed earlier, I'm going to use this car as an opportunity to do some more product testing, and I'm going to continue next with some compounds and pads to see what this particular paint responds best to. Now on camera, this silver metallic paint is extremely difficult to clearly capture, but hopefully you would have seen earlier in the footage that the water spot etchings on the glass are actually also all over the paint, but just harder to see, especially on camera. There is also some consistent swirls throughout and a few little dents and random isolated deeper scratches mixed in. For the first wave of testing, I'm going to be using the RUPES Mark II 15mm polisher with the Lake Country Blue HDO foam cutting pads, and also starting with the ANGELWAX Resurrection cutting compound. Overall, Resurrection has a nice user experience with this combination, with decent lubrication, minimal dusting and a long work time with little issue. It was also able to address a good 90% of the defects with just a single pass, which is really impressive. But although the finish is decent, it does still contain quite a bit of haze and marring that will need a second follow-up stage to address. Next up is JESCAR Correcting Compound. I'd say the user experience was a slight step up on Resurrection, with mildly better lubrication and really no dusting at all, with an equally good long work time window and a super easy wipe off. The defect removal, however, was a step down compared to the ANGELWAX compound, with more like 70 to 80% success. But the finish was actually noticeably better with less haze and micro marring, but still not exactly perfect. For a third test, I tried RUPES Millicourse Compound. Now from a user stance, it was again quite good, with fantastic lubrication and what seemed like an endless work time with just the slightest of dust. However, although the wipe off was quite easy, it still seemed to leave a thin layer of residue behind that I wasn't seeing in the other compounds. As far as defect removal goes, it seemed to be better than the JESCAR, but not quite as good as Resurrection, and in the finish it was yet again somewhere in the middle of those two previous compounds. The last test section with this pad combination was with CONCOURS Precision. Now overall the user experience was yet again quite good, though I would say that JESCAR and the RUPES had a slight edge in that area with less dusting, easier wipe-offs and longer work time windows. In relation to cut, it was perhaps just a step down on the ANGELWAX Resurrection, but noticeably better than JESCAR. The finish is, however, where Precision really excelled, with amazing clarity and next to no haze or micro marring that the other three compounds just couldn't match. For the next set of tests, I used the Lake Country fibre cutting pads, once again starting with the ANGELWAX Resurrection. Now, unlike the foam pad, the user experience wasn't quite as good with this compound and microfiber pad combination, as it did seem to grip and pull a little more, and the heat also seemed to be an issue, reducing work time and dusting a little more. The wipe off, although not terrible, was noticeably harder compared to the foam, and even blowing out the pad's residue seemed more difficult. The truth is that I can say the same thing about Precision, where it's just an amazing compound with foam, but really isn't suited to microfiber, at least unless you're prepared to use a huge amount of pads or stop and wash them constantly. As far as defect removal goes, it was actually by far the most effective section, with almost 100% defect removal achieved. But the finish was anything but great, with just a little too much aggression, at least on this paint type, that seemed to change the shade of the paint to a lighter silver with the excessive haze and marring left behind. Next was JESCAR compound with the same microfiber pad. Now, unlike the ANGELWAX, JESCAR performed quite well here with a good user experience, displaying minimal dusting, nice lubrication and an easy wipe off. And compared to using JESCAR with the foam pad, the defect removal was much improved with the microfiber pad, with a good 90% of the imperfections gone after just a single pass. The finish was also quite good comparing it to the last section with microfiber, but still not quite to the level of the finish that JESCAR was able to achieve with the foam pad. Now, unfortunately, it seemed like I wasn't recording the last two sections in this testing phase with the RUPES Milli compound and the last cut compounding glaze, as I don't seem to have the footage. But I'll just quickly talk you through those last two sections. Once again, I'd have to say that the RUPES Milli compound was somewhere in the middle from both a user-friendly experience and the results it achieved. It actually seems okay with microfiber pads, but not the best compared to JESCAR or the last cut. The defect removal wasn't quite as aggressive as ANGELWAX Resurrection, but definitely better than JESCAR, and the finish was again somewhere in the middle of those two compounds. The last section with the last cut compounding glaze was perhaps the winner here with these microfiber pads. The user experience was just simply better, with reduced heat, next to no dusting, long work times and such an easy wipe off. Now, the defect removal with the last cut, as with ANGELWAX Resurrection, were both pretty much 100% perfect. But the real difference between the two, at least on this paint type and existing defects, is that the last cut was able to finish down exceptionally well, similar to JESCAR, but with greater defect removal. As a final compound test on the bonnet, I wanted to further test ANGELWAX Resurrection and JESCAR correcting compound with the Buff and Shine Eurofiber pads using the ShineMate 605 12mm polisher. Now, overall, I really like these microfiber pads and have found them to be just a slight step down in aggression compared to the Lake Country fibre pads, but a slight step up in finish quality, which together with the smaller throw of the ShineMate polisher does lend them to be a great one-step pad on many occasions. The truth is that on this paint type, which is feeling and reacting more like a mid to soft paint, I don't expect any microfiber cutting pads to finish down flawlessly, but I am still interested to see how well they can finish and how these two compounds and polisher work in harmony. Firstly, with the ANGELWAX Resurrection, the overall feel and user experience is perhaps a touch better than with the Lake Country fibre pads. But I think a lot of that has got to do with the reduced heat that the ShineMate's smaller orbital throw is producing, together with the center hole cutout of these pads, which is helping to reduce the heat. Now the Lake Country H2O microfiber pads do also have center cutout holes, that with this compound in particular would be my recommendation, as it does noticeably assist the compound and backing plate in limiting its heat. But overall it doesn't entirely solve the problem. It's really the heat and increased friction that is causing the issues of dust, harder wipe-offs, and a grippier, harder polishing experience. The truth is, I found that I really needed to swap out the pads quite frequently and allowed them to cool more so than with JESCAR compound, and it was more difficult to cleanly blow out the pads and remove the residue. I think that if I had a few more pads and simply switched to newer ones more often, it would help address this issue. But on a more honest level, it just comes down to microfiber perhaps not being the best material for this compound. In relation to the results, I can plainly see a better finish with the smaller 12mm polisher and the Eurofiber pads, whilst the cut is actually still quite good. Now the finish is by no means what I'd call perfect, but I think the smaller diameter of these pads, together with the dual fiber strands, is what's reducing the haze and micro marring, allowing a slightly improved finish over the Lake Country pads with this compound, machine and pad choice. Now making a direct comparison with the JESCAR correcting compound, there's an instant difference in the feel of the machine. Quite simply, the lubrication is better, the pads spin more freely, the heat, although still an issue, is noticeably reduced with less of a need to frequently swap out or allow the pads to cool. The other major difference is that the residue is far more easily blown out with compressed air, all of which just plainly points to the fact that this compound works better with microfiber pads. Now I don't want this to be mistaken into me saying it's a better compound, because honestly I don't believe that at all. I've said it in the past, the Precision is my benchmark compound and I love it, but I honestly wouldn't use it with microfiber for the same reasons. No one compound has it all, so in the end it's up to you to decide what's more important, how you like to work, and what your priorities are. So looking at the results, once again, JESCAR is more limited in its cut compared to Resurrection, but the finish is clearly better with greater clarity and less haze. But just as I expected, neither one of these finishes is what I consider to be acceptable. Out of all the compounds and pads tested on this bonnet, the only section that in my eyes had a good balance of both cut and finish to an acceptable level would have been the section with the Lake Country Blue H2O foam pad and Precision, which once again is a combination that seems to work time and time again on so many paint types and situations. But in any case, it was really interesting testing all these compounds, pads and machine variations, and I hope there was some useful information there your way. So as a polishing or finishing test on the bonnet, I decided to try these 3 polishes with the Lake Country Orange Foam H2O pads and the ShineMate polisher, starting with the RUPES new Rotary Fine Polish. Now this polish actually sits in between RUPES Coarse and Ultra Fine Polish, making it more of a medium to fine compound. Going by the use I've had with it so far, it seems to be quite a nice product with a great user experience, with little to no dusting, an easy wipe off, and it's very capable at eliminating compounding haze and marring. It also worked very well here on the Lancer's paint, dealing with the microfiber pad and compounding haze with ease, as well as elevating the paint to a beautiful rich glossy finish. Next was SCHOLL Concepts S30+. This is a polish I've used extensively in the past and is one that I still frequently use as it just plain and simple works in so many instances. I'd actually have to give a slight edge to the RUPES from a user-friendly perspective, as S30 Plus can and does dust a little for a fine polish, whereas I couldn't see any dust at all from the RUPES fine polish. But apart from that, the user experience was great all round for both of these products. When looking at the results, I'd like to tell you the differences that I saw, but quite honestly, my eyes couldn't detect a difference in the quality of finish either way, which was exceptional for both polishes. The last polish was CONCOURS Finesse. This is again another of my go-to polishes, as it's got a bit more cut than your average fine polish, but still seems to finish down just as well. Just like S30 Plus, it can slightly dust, but apart from that, there is very little separating these three polishes from a user-friendly point of view, as they all provide a great user experience that you would expect from finer polishes as opposed to more aggressive compounds. Now I can tell you that in the past, the results I've been able to achieve can vary quite a bit, but on this particular paint on this particular day, it was hard to visually see a difference in either of the three sections. I've actually worked on a few Lancers in the past, including the base models, Rally Arts and Evos, and overall they do tend to have great paint to work on from a detailer's point of view. So just like the paint on this particular Lancer, it's not all that difficult to remove the defects, nor is it a fussy or finicky paint to finish down on. If all the cars are corrected with this easygoing, life would be a lot easier, but perhaps not quite as interesting. Now seeing that each of these three polishes work great, with no difference to be seen, I decided to use the RUPES fine polish to complete the bonnet, as it's the polish I've had the least experience with and wanted to have a little more time and experience with it. Once all completed, the bonnet did take on a new lease of life with all the oxidation and water spots removed to reveal a beautiful glowing silvery finish that just looked amazing. So wanting to continue testing ANGELWAX Resurrection and JESCAR correcting compound, I decided to split the roof in half and further test these compounds with another pad. The KAMIKAZE foam pads are actually a pad I've been wanting to try for a while, so I finally got some in and started testing them with Resurrection compound on the roof. Firstly, from a user perspective, I did get a little product splatter at first, but that seemed to settle once the pad had softened up. The balance of these pads was actually quite good, and both the mini and full-size polishers seem to like the light thin design of these pads. The pads themselves don't seem to absorb much of the polish, as it tends to sit on the surface of the pad and not penetrate through, but overall a good user-friendly experience. Now from a cutting performance stance, they actually were the least aggressive pads I tried on this paint, and even with the ANGELWAX being one of the most aggressive compounds, the cut was still quite limited. I think that on softer Honda or Nissan paint, these pads may be a great option, as the finish I was able to achieve was actually one of the best ones of the day. But yet again, it wasn't perfect and would still need a follow-up polish. The other side of the roof was completed using the same KAMIKAZE foam pads, but with JESCAR correcting compound. Once again, there really wasn't much to fault from a user-friendly experience, And honestly, it feels like these pads should work fairly well with just about any compound, as they are quite gentle and forgiving. However, when it comes to their cutting ability, this is where I did struggle quite a bit. Now with ANGELWAX Resurrection, it did take an extra pass to achieve a good level of defect removal. But with JESCAR, that turned into an extra 2 passes, meaning it was taking at least 3 if not 4 sets of passes with this pad and compound combination, and plainly taking way too long. The finish, however, was really great, but still not as good as precision with the Lake Country Blue H2O pad. And once again, just far too much work. But in the end, it was great to test these combinations and discover what works and doesn't work so well on this particular paint and defects. The roof was then finished just as the bonnet was with the Lake Country Orange foam H2O pads and the RUPES Fine rotary compound. The glass on this car was actually one of the most noticeable water-etched areas on the entire vehicle. So for this, I pretty much went back to my most aggressive combination of the Lake Country microfiber pads and the ANGELWAX Resurrection to level down those imperfections. It still actually took a good 2 to 3 sets of passes to eliminate the water etchings, because as I've mentioned before, glass is far harder than paint, and in most circumstances a more aggressive approach is needed to remove even the slightest defects. But although the glass actually turned out to be a lot more work than I anticipated, the difference was quite dramatic, and the owner couldn't believe how nice and clear it looked, which is always nice to hear. Now usually at this point I'll move on to correcting the rest of the car and then use a coating to protect the paint. But as I said earlier, I'm not going to be doing a full correction and protection detail on this car, but rather some more testing. So for the protection, I'm actually using CONCOURS NovaJet spray sealant. For those of you that aren't familiar with this product, it's an extremely hydrophobic sealant that creates perhaps the best water contact angles and beads of any product on the market. It's extremely easy to apply, cures within an hour, and in most cases, it works great as a top layer over a coating or even over another sealant for the ultimate water behaviour effect. The real trick is not to apply too much product. Work relatively small sections and just make sure the paint is cool and out of direct sunlight. Other than that, just ensure the paint is clean and it's really hard to go wrong. The bonnet was also coated with NovaJet, and the car was then left for the next stage of testing that will be with a new prototype product that I'm actually really excited about. Now this second stage of testing was done about a week later. The car was given its first wash since the detail, but rather than going through a whole pre-soak and foam stage, it was given a thorough pressure rinse down and then a hand wash. As you can hopefully see, the water behaviour is simply amazing on both the roof and bonnet, which is exactly what I expected to see with NovaJet. Whereas where the paint hasn't been corrected or protected, the water behaviour is quite poor, and once again, just as I expected. Now on the previous videos I've done where I've coated the cars, I've actually not applied any top coats or sealants over the glass coatings, as I want to judge the coatings on their own, at least for the meantime, but I do recommend without a doubt that you do use top coat sealants over your coatings as a general rule, as they will largely extend the life of the coating and complement the car's overall finish and look. So onto the final test with the car being washed and dried. The product I'm testing here is, for lack of a better word, a quick detailer. But unlike any quick detailer or product I've used in the past, this prototype product doesn't mask or cover the existing paint protection with its own solution like every other quick detailer on the market, but rather just revives the existing paint protection to make it look and behave as it did the day you applied it. So whether you have a coating, sealant or wax on your car, this product isn't going to cover it up with its own waxes or polymers, as most quick detailers or spray waxes and sealants do, but rather recondition the surface back to life. I've honestly never come across a product like this before, but I've been asked so many times in the past, how can I get my coating, wax or sealant looking better without removing or reapplying it? And this is the first product I've seen that has the ability to do that. Some of you may have seen the coating wash product I used earlier as a clay lubricant in a previous video, which is actually based on the same technology of working with your coating rather than masking it with another product. And although this prototype quick detailer is a little different and more adaptable to multiple paint protection products, the same general theory and goals apply. So to try and display how this product works, I applied it to the bare paint on the car's door, to an older previously protected panel on the front guard, and to the freshly corrected and protected roof and bonnet panels with a dividing masking tape line. As you can hopefully see on the door's bare paint, the product is improving the paint's behaviour, look and feel, but only really marginally and less that you would normally see with most quick detailers, but it's still improving or reviving the finish, as you can plainly see a difference from one side of the paint to the other. Whereas on the front fender that was protected with NovaJet almost 2 months ago according to the owner, it's harder to see a difference. But the right front side where the quick detailer was applied is actually behaving like a fresh application of NovaJet rather than the 2-month-old application as the rest of the fender is displaying. But perhaps the most impressive test is over the new week-old application of NovaJet on the roof and bonnet. Now, as you can also hopefully see, with the masking tape removed, there is no difference from one side of the panel to the next, meaning that the quick detailer hasn't altered NovaJet's great finish in any way, which I guarantee you that any other quick detailer would have reduced NovaJet's amazing water behaviour. This really is a hard product to clearly explain and display on video, but hopefully I was able to get across what a truly unique and important product this could really be. As I mentioned earlier, this new breed of quick detailer may actually be released in the near future, and I'll try to keep you updated on it. As always, I do really hope you found this video both informative and enjoyable to watch. Please like, comment and subscribe to this channel to show your support for these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.